Local people, local stories. This is the WBBM All Local from News Radio 780 and 105.9 FM.
Parents say they're horrified over recent fights in hallways at two Joliet schools. WBBM's Rachel Pearson reports it led to an emergency school board meeting last night.
Cell phone video shows an all-out brawl in the middle of the school day at Joliet West High School. It's one of several violent fights reported in the last few weeks. Joliet parent Rosemary McCune tells CBS 2,
I am fearful for my daughters.
District 204 held an emergency meeting for parents and community members to share their concerns. Sarah Davis told the school board her son was caught in one of the recent fights.
He was trapped by one of the brawls that surrounded him after he left gym class. He had nowhere to go. Since the start of the school year, the district says 80 students have been involved in altercations. At least 2 teachers have been injured. Rachel Pearson, News Radio, 105.9 WBBM.
37-year-old Villa Park man charged with robbing a bank on Monday in Lombard with fireworks strapped to his waist. It made it look like a bomb. More from WBBM's Mike Krauser.
Jason Bradley, according to the FBI, handed a note to the manager of West Suburban Bank on Main Street reading, "I need everything from your drawer or we all die." The criminal complaint says he unzipped his hoodie, revealing what turned out to be fireworks and wires duct taped to his waist. A clear image from a surveillance camera shows him with his head and face largely visible. He wore a surgical mask. A teller hit a silent alarm and gave Bradley $800. A camera captured an image of his car and the license plate. The FBI was outside his house within 45 minutes. The complaint says he called his wife and said he'd robbed a bank and ditched his car in Elmhurst and also texted her a picture of a wad of cash. The FBI says he was later seen returning home. He was arrested when he went outside to smoke. That from the FBI on the bank robbery in Lombard.
7/12 with Columbus Day less than a week away. Cook County Board's yet to decide whether it will eventually eliminate the holiday. A virtual committee hearing on a proposal to replace it with Indigenous Peoples Day and Reconciliation Day saw passionate arguments on both sides. The president of the Joint Civic Committee of Italian Americans, Ron Onesti, called the proposed ordinance divisive, insensitive, and hurtful.
This ordinance is designed to be divisive. If the goal was to truly recognize Indigenous people and to establish a day of reconciliation, if those were put on any other day, this vote, I'm sure, would be overwhelmingly unanimous, because we all want those things.
Commissioners tabled a vote on the resolution. Not clear when it will be addressed again. Time to visit Lober Motors Mercedes-Benz in Lincolnwood. And now from the DuckDuckGo for Privacy Sports Desk, Josh Liss. And Dean mentioned Chicago Marathon Sunday. You once again will be anchoring marathon coverage on our sister station, The Score.
You got it, 670 The Score. It'll be a 7 to 11 a.m. broadcast Sunday morning. You'll want to be with us. And I think if those early temperatures hang in the mid to high 60s long enough, remember a lot of this race takes place in the morning hours before noon, and then it's going to kind of peak up, as he says, maybe towards 80 with some sprinkles. So good luck to all the runners, and listen to the race and all the festivities of the return to running here in Chicago on 670 The Score this Sunday, 7 to 11. He had a lot more help from his friends. All-Star and Olympian Zach Levine and the Bulls soared to a 36-point exhibition opening win over Cleveland, 131-95 over the Cavaliers. New Bulls guard Lonzo Ball dishing out 5 assists with a turnover just 25 minutes, and Alex Caruso dealing out 10 assists.
Zach has been so used to having the ball in his hands and generating sometimes a lot of shots for himself. Now he's in a position where shots are being generated for him.
And that's a big difference for Levine, who winds up with 25 points in 24 minutes. The Bulls work out, play the Pelicans in another exhibition on Friday. And they lost to Oakland in last year's opening round of the playoffs. Now the White Sox are prepping for what looks like a tougher Houston team. And they're going to have live crowds behind them, with either Lance Lynn or Lucas Giolito starting game 1 for the Sox at Houston tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Kyle Schwarber's second inning home run. Yeah, Schwarber winds up the difference in the Red Sox wild card win over the Yankees 6-2. Anthony Rizzo homers in New York's loss. The Bears will reveal the starting quarterback sometime later today for Vegas. Justin Fields ready to go for a third straight week. Andy Dalton's trying to prove his knee is healthy. The WNBA semis could end with the Sky looking to make the finals up 2-1, hosting Connecticut tonight in town. Josh Liss, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
The drivers reportedly turned themselves in to Chicago police after a 4-year-old boy was hit by a vehicle near the intersection of Foster and Pulaski. Happened around 7:30 last night. The boy taken to the hospital is expected to survive. The COVID quarantine time in Chicago public schools was shortened from 14 days down to 10 days starting this weekend. As WBBM's Jim Gudis reports, the city's top doctors seeking to reassure parents schools are safe when it comes to the virus.
Dr. Allison Arwady, the city's public health commissioner, says the numbers of cases of COVID among Chicago public school students and staff have been very low since the start of the school year in August.
We've not seen a big increase in child COVID rates, so that's very reassuring. We continue to average fewer than one Chicago child under the age of 18 being hospitalized with COVID each day citywide.
CPS CEO Pedro Martinez says because of that, as well as guidance from federal and state health officials and what he's seeing in other school districts, he decided to reduce the COVID quarantine time at CPS. He says he's seeking a balance between parents concerned about the spread of the virus and those who want their children in classrooms. Jim Gudis, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
Now to private schools. Penalties are being eased for private schools in Illinois found in violation of the state masking requirements.
The Illinois State Board of Education adjusted its policy for private schools that fail to comply with Governor Pritzker's mask mandate. Previously, schools would immediately lose their status and be deemed unrecognized by the state. Now, private schools will have the same policy as public schools and be given a 60-day probation period where they'll be required to submit a corrective plan. Spokeswoman Jackie Matthews tells the Tribune the update will give private schools more time to work with the Board of Education on coming into compliance. Rachel Pearson, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
During the first village board meeting in Arlington Heights since the Bears announced they're buying Arlington Park, the mayor's told his constituents he hasn't committed to anything. The latest this morning from WBBM's Mike Krauser.
Two residents spoke during the meeting, both Bears fans, Keith Mowens and Tom Locke.
I understand the excitement and the economic potential of the Bears maybe moving to Arlington Park. There's no question about that. However, I think we should give the Bears exactly $0.
We're now about to have a very large new neighbor move in. That new neighbor also has a lot of wealthy and influential business partners looking to tap into the quality of life equity in our community for their profit.
Locke said he's concerned about the impact of a massive stadium complex and all that it could bring on the quality of life. Mayor Tom Hayes said residents will have many opportunities to weigh in.
We're going to listen to them in terms of what we do before we commit to do anything. And I have not committed any funds.
It was the first chance residents had to formally share their thoughts. That's the story from the village board meeting in Arlington Heights.
The latest round of city council budget hearings has featured Chicago aldermen voicing dismay over a failure to effectively crack down on problem buildings.
Aldermanic frustrations with bad buildings dominated the talk at the budget hearing for the Department of Buildings. Commissioner Matthew Baudet got an earful about attempts to close businesses that attract gangs, drugs, and violence. 32nd Ward Alderman Scott Wagaspack says the Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection seems unable to get it done.
Time after time, they drop the ball or refuse to go after some of these business owners. And if that's not going to happen, then we need the building department and our other agencies to go in there and start dropping the hammer on these places.
Buildings Commissioner Baudet says he and his team have gone out to some of these buildings.
Some frightening situations that you're in sometimes, but when we show up, we show up in full force. So it's us, CPD, BACP.
He suggests multi-department action, if backed up by the courts, could have an impact. Craig Dellamore, News Radio 105.9 WBBM.
That's the WBBM All Local, updated multiple times a day. But for the latest news, traffic, weather, sports, and business, listen live to WBBM anytime by asking your smart speaker to play WBBM News Radio. You can also listen at WBBMNewsRadio.com, on the Odyssey app, and of course, on the radio. News Radio 780 and 105.9 FM. WBBM.